HOA Karen's shadow loomed larger than her garish floral dress, which strained against her frame as she waddled into my barbecue spot, her sneer sharp enough to slice brisket. She didn't just walk, she invaded, her voice already piercing the smoky air before I could flip my next rib. It was a perfect Saturday in Willow Park, the kind where the sun kissed your skin, and the smell of smoked meat and laughter mingled like old friends. My pop-up barbecue stand, Ricky's Rib Shack, had been the heart of this park for 3 summers, drawing crowds for my slow-cooked ribs and homemade sauce. I'd built it from nothing, just a grill, a folding table, and a dream after losing my job to a corporate layoff. This wasn't just a business. It was my redemption, my proof I could still make something of myself. But HOA Karen, the self-appointed queen of the Willow Grove Homeowners Association, had other plans. She stormed in at noon, her flip-flops slapping the grass like a metronome of doom. "This is illegal," she screeched, jabbing a manicured finger at my grill. "You're violating HOA rules. No unauthorized vendors." Her eyes, small and mean, scanned my setup like a vulture circling carrion. I tried explaining calmly, at first, that the park was public land, not under her HOA's grip, and I had a city permit taped to my table. But HOA didn't hear permits. She heard defiance. To her, my little stand, with its handwritten menu and mismatched chairs, was a personal insult to her manicured cul-de-sac empire. "You're a nuisance," she spat, her voice loud enough to hush the chatter of my customers. A small crowd, 2 regulars, a curious jogger, and my buddy Jamal, who helped with the grill, watched in stunned silence. I felt my chest tighten, not from anger, but from the sheer audacity of this woman, who'd probably never tasted a rib worth fighting for, deciding my fate. She pulled out her phone, dialed with theatrical flair, and within minutes, 2 cops rolled up, their cruiser's lights flashing like a bad omen. Officer Daniels, a guy I recognized from last summer's chili cook-off, looked embarrassed as HOA ranted about health hazards and vagrants lowering property values. Her words dripped with disdain, not just for me, but for everyone who didn't fit her vision of suburban perfection. The jogger, a young woman named Lila, muttered, "She's insufferable," loud enough for HOA to shoot her a death glare. Jamal whispered to me, "Man, she's gonna regret this." I wasn't so sure. The cops, despite their obvious reluctance, told me to pack up or face a fine. HOA stood there, arms crossed, smirking like she'd just won a war. I complied that day, but not because I was scared. I was furious. This wasn't just about ribs or a permit, it was about HOA Karen weaponizing her privilege to crush anyone who didn't bow to her. I'd seen her type before, the kind who'd call the cops on a kid's lemonade stand or complain about a neighbor's mailbox being the wrong shade of beige. But this time, she'd picked the wrong fight. I wasn't just some guy with a grill. I was Ricky Monroe, and I'd clawed my way back from rock bottom once. I could do it again. That night, I sat in my tiny apartment, the smell of barbecue still clinging to my clothes, and did some research. The park was indeed public, managed by the city, not the HOA. HOA's complaint was baseless, but she'd used her clout to bully the cops into action. I found a lawyer, Sarah Kim, through a community forum. She was a pit bull in a pantsuit, with a reputation for taking on petty tyrants like HOA. "This is a slam dunk," Sarah said, her eyes gleaming. "She's overstepped, and we're going to make her pay." We filed a lawsuit against the Willow Grove HOA for harassment, defamation, and interference with my business. Sarah dug up dirt, HOA had a history of frivolous complaints galling animal control on a neighbor's cat, finding a family for a basketball hoop, even trying to ban a kid's birthday party for being too loud. Her reign of terror was documented. And we had witnesses, Lila, the jogger, who'd recorded part of HOA's tirade, and Officer Daniels, who reluctantly admitted HOA had pressured him with threats of reporting him to the city. The courtroom was electric. HOA sat across from me, her face a mask of indignation, as if I'd personally offended her by existing. Sarah laid out our case. The HOA had no jurisdiction over public land, and HOA's actions had cost me a day's earnings $800, a small fortune for a one-man operation. But we didn't stop there. Sarah argued that HOA's pattern of abuse constituted a broader harm, not just to me, but to the community. This isn't about one barbecue stand, she said, her voice steady but fierce. It's about power, misused to silence and intimidate. HOA's lawyer, a sweaty man in a cheap suit, tried to paint her as a concerned citizen protecting community standards. But the judge wasn't buying it. When Lila's video played HOA's voice shrieking, "This riffraff is ruining our neighborhood," the courtroom gasped. Even the bailiff stifled a laugh. The judge's ruling was swift. The HOA was liable for my losses, legal fees, and punitive damages. But Sarah had pushed for something bolder, a settlement that would hit them where it hurt. We demanded the HOA's headquarters, a gaudy clubhouse they'd built with members' dues, as part of the settlement. It was a long shot, but Sarah argued it was symbolic, a space meant for the community, hijacked by HOA's ego, should be reclaimed. To everyone's shock, the HOA, desperate to avoid further legal battles, agreed. They handed over the deed, and I walked out of that courthouse owning a 2,000 square foot building worth $500,000. The day I got the keys, I threw a barbecue party in the clubhouse parking lot. The smell of ribs and collards filled the air, and neighbors who'd been terrorized by HOA showed up in droves. Lila brought her famous cornbread. Jamal spun a playlist that had everyone dancing. Even Officer Daniels swung by, off-duty, and grabbed a plate. HOA was nowhere to be seen. Rumor had it she'd moved to another state, her reputation in tatters. The clubhouse, now mine, became Ricky's community kitchen, a space for pop-up vendors, cooking classes, and anyone who wanted to share a meal without fear of a Karen's wrath. Looking back, I realized this wasn't just my victory. It was for every small business owner, every dreamer who'd been told their hustle didn't belong. HOA Karen thought she could shut me down with a phone call and a sneer. But she didn't count on me fighting back. She didn't count on the community that rallied behind me, or the lawyer who saw my fight as hers. Her arrogance was her undoing. And in its place, we built something better, a place where everyone's welcome, as long as they bring an appetite.